Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Midnight Therapy. I am your host, Kat Matthews, here with you on this glorious Saturday morning. I have coffee. I have a pimp jacket made of grizzly bear skin and fur. Just kidding. I got this from Goodwill. It's pretty nice, though. I wear it sometimes. I didn't wear it on the show yet, so you're welcome. Tomorrow is a very important day. It's actually one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite. I'm not sure if you know this, but Valentine's Day steals the thunder from this holiday. But the more important holiday is Groundhog Day, which is tomorrow. I don't know if you know the importance of Groundhog Day, but it is pretty great. I am embarrassed to say that I've never been, even though I'm from Pennsylvania, to Puxatawny to see Puxatawny Phil come out of the house in which he lives in that's called Gobbler's Knob, and then him with a committee of top hat wearing men figure out through a scroll that the groundhog predicts the weather. Some of you may not know this, but this is true. It's a real holiday. The groundhog either sees his shadow or doesn't, and one or the other gives us early spring or 6 more weeks of winter. Now, these men on the panel are the only ones that can speak the groundhog's language, and they can decipher it and read it, and they do. They read it, and then they put him, Phil, back into his home, Gobbler's Knob, until next February 2nd. And this has been going on forever. It's a small town out there, so it's hard to find a hotel room. That's really why I don't go. That books up really fast, but it looks like a jolly good time. Waking up at 5 in the morning and venturing out into the woods to find this magic groundhog that predicts the weather. Not every state has traditions like that. Not every country, not every civilization has traditions like that. So you got to cherish them. I will, however, be watching it on TV tomorrow. I get really excited. I get a bowl of cereal and watch every day. I taught it a lot. That's why I know so much. That's why I'm a wealth of knowledge on Groundhog's Day. I taught it a lot when I was teaching through the years. You know, passing the torch to the next generation so they know about this important tradition. You may be wondering why I don't have a groundhog painting, because I do all the other holidays. You know, it's a grotesque holiday portrait series. I just didn't feel like the groundhog was interesting enough. Like all the other ones, I could add like clothing and hats. I already did a bunch of top hats. So I didn't want to, I don't know. He's just like a groundhog. He didn't really have any other attributes to him. So I skipped him. Maybe I'll make a groundhog one. I might add to the series, you know? And keep in mind top hat. Top hat is going to be a recurring theme of this episode. We're going to talk about top hats later. Anyways, on to the news. As you may know, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm also not a journalist, and I don't claim to be. This is just entertainment, this show. It's comedy and entertainment and fun, wink. But this is not a news show. So if you're getting your news info from the show, that's fine. But make sure you're getting it from other places as well and fact-checking and doing all that. Because I'm not claiming to have answers. I'm not a sage. I'm not a mystic that we know of. Moral of the story, let me dip your toe into the world of news that I want to bring you and then do your own research, okay? I'm not saying I'm peer-reviewed. Just as a disclaimer. Anyways, we're going to cover the news cycle this week. That's pretty much it. for this episode because there was so much going on. When I was thinking about what to talk about on this week's episode, the list kept getting bigger and bigger by the minute. So it's going to be pretty much only quote unquote news for this episode. But trust me, it'll be fun. Some of it's terrible, but some of it'll be fun. Let's get into it. The Super Bowl is coming up. Looks like it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles. That's exciting, right? I mean, you know my view on the football and stuff. Not the biggest fan. I don't have a team per se that I care about enough. Not really in that, in that world too much. I like betting and losing. By the way, I lost last week. I had 2 parlays that had 3 out of the 4 tiers completed in the first quarter. And then all 3 quarters went by and it didn't complete either of them. So that sucks. Looks like I'm going back to work. Thought I was going to retire. But yeah, Chiefs and the Eagles, I don't really care. It's just a Coliseum. They have a Coliseum in every city now, and it's more exciting, like we said. People are going to go nuts. They feel like that's their tribe. That's my team. I can't believe they're finally going to the big Coliseum. It's going to be huge. I get it. It's exciting. The only thing people don't get is just like this show is entertainment, so is the NFL. It's really the same as the WWE, like wrestling. It's scripted, I think. I think it's very planned out. They're trying to get the most ratings. They're trying to get the most excitement, the most anger, because rage bait is a thing. I was just talking about this with a friend that anger is like the most potent emotion, like hate. So every time the ref gives a little easy call on Mahomes or a bad call on the other team, and it looks like he's playing favorites with Mahomes, that's good for ratings. It gets you sharing the clips, go on YouTube, rewatch that. Look at this. He's clearly, they know what they're doing. It's WWE. They have to create a villain. Like you need a Hulk Hogan Andre fight. And like Mahomes is the new Brady. He's going to get all the favors. He's the face of the NFL. He's going to be the next GOAT because he's great. And he has a little help. Remember in Gladiator when they would like help the ones that were on their team? Like you had the gladiators that were the prisoners and the slaves versus like the house gladiators, I guess. And they would like pull the lions and the tigers away from their people, but let the chain go for the gladiator. Like that's what's going on. They're like helping Mahomes out any chance they could because he's the meal ticket, man. That whole team. You got Kelsey and the Taylor Swift. That's a lot of ratings. Seeing Taylor Swift's red lips on the screen every 4 seconds. That's a big part of this. Got women into football more than they have ever been. For better or for worse. But when he wins, and Kelsey proposes to Taylor Swift on the field, you're going to see history. That's a three-peat. That's huge. You're going to see a lot of angry people from Philly. When Philly won against the Patriots, which was crazy, they beat Brady. I was the only one, probably the only one they'll ever get, too. I remember people were like eating horse shit on the road. Look this up. I'm not lying. They were like, they found a big pile of horse poop, like from a police horse. And they were just eating it, like running down the streets, and climbing light posts and stuff. Very weird. That's when they won. Imagine when they lose. So yeah, that's my prediction. Don't get too caught up in it. It's just entertainment. There's scripts. It's an entertainment company. Look it up. The NFL is an entertainment company, not a sporting organization. That's why we're the only country that plays that. American football. It's our thing. That's our entertainment. It's not like a sport. Not going to see that in the Olympics. Anywho, that's my thing on the Super Bowl. I'm going to bet and lose again. Don't worry. In the country music world, I saw this story. It was a little disheartening. This woman, seemingly harmless, was just dancing at a concert and singing the words to the song. Now, maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm from a different timeline, which we're going to get into later as well. But I thought singing and dancing were very normal behaviors for a concert, right? Correct? Am I crazy? This woman was dancing and it wasn't even that bad. I've seen worse dance moves before. But she was asked to leave the concert. It was a Luke Combs concert, and the security came over and made her leave because she was dancing and singing at a concert. What is the world coming to? Any normal behavior is now abnormal, and everything abnormal is normal. I don't know what's going on. I don't. What are you going to the concert for if you can't sing and dance? I don't know. Just listen to your AirPods at home then. That's what I would say. I hope she gets a refund. Hope she gets to meet Luke Combs. Do that. Make it right. Speaking of the music industry, this story really has to be covered. I don't think a lot of people are covering it right. I'm going to cover it right because this is midnight therapy after all. I'm not going to beat around the bush. A lot of people try to use the politically correct words. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you what happened. There's this very fat rapper. This person was very fat, just being honest. You could say plus sized or big or I don't know. Whatever word. Jumbo. She was fat. Obese. Large. And she was trying to take a Lyft, which is like Uber, if you don't know. It's a ride share service. And she couldn't fit in the car because she was very fat. And this is a woman. Her name is Dank Demoss. I hope I'm saying that right. Dank Demoss, I don't know. And she's a female. And she's very fat. Not to be confused with Dave Blunts, who is also a very fat man that's also a rapper. And he gets wheeled out on a couch onto stage, and he has an oxygen tank because he can't breathe. And he has a song called I Can't Put Down the Cup, talking about drinking cough medicine or lean. And he can't put it down because it makes him feel so good. Not him. This is not Dave Blunts. This is Dank Demoss. They're about the same size, though. Maybe Dave Blunts is a little bigger. Dave Blunts, a.k.a. the Human Grimace. They call him that. The Human Grimace. Because he wears like purple all the time. Like a purple jumpsuit. Dave Blunts is not Dank Demoss. Just clarifying, because a lot of people are getting that confused when I hear them talk about it. I'm like, no, those are two different people. So now that that's out of the way, Dank Demoss could not fit in a Lyft car, and she is now suing Lyft for discrimination, weight discrimination. And these lawyers picked it up, and I was like, of course they did. Of course these lawyers picked it up, And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to set the bar even lower. That we're going to have to force Lyft and Uber to have U-Haul trucks in their arsenal to pick people up now. Like now you're going to have like a flatbed category of Uber to get people. Like the XL will not be enough. It'll be like, do you have any U-Haul box trucks? And if not, I'm suing. What if this woman were to go on a plane? Like, would she sue American Airlines or Spirit or whoever? Like, what? What if she couldn't fit in the seat or the door of the plane or the bathroom of the plane? Are you going to sue everyone? I don't know. This only goes on in America, by the way. These stories only go on in America, where humans don't, fit in vehicles, and then they sue because they didn't fit in the vehicle. I don't know. I wish him well. Speaking of planes, we're going to talk about something now very sad to change the mood a little. The DC plane crash. You've all heard about this. The news week has been crazy, so bear with me. It's all over the map. This military helicopter, unmarked, I guess, flew and crashed in the air into a passenger plane in DC in the Potomac, and everyone died. There were no survivors. This is a tragic thing. I think we never thought the skies would become like busy enough where there's accidents, like a car accident, nobody bats an eye. There's millions of cars on the road, it's bound to happen. But now there's so much activity in the air that I fear that this is going to become more regular. I never really heard of like aerial objects crashing into each other in the sky before. I mean, I probably have before, like once or twice, but this is odd phenomenon. You know, my heart goes out to all those people. There were some Olympic athletes on that plane, I believe. Very sad. I really have no words. It's just crazy to think that could happen. Makes me a little afraid to fly. Feels very Final Destination like. But remember that lady was like, she sounded like an alien on the plane. She was like, that motherfucker is not real. Remember that lady? What happened to her? But combine that with this, I'm going to be a little afraid to fly next time, especially in high traffic areas like landing in New York or DC. I don't know, especially DC with all the military stuff. I don't know. New fear unlocked, I guess. Speaking of ill taste comments, Trump is getting some flack because of this. They asked him if he was going to go to the crash site. Now, maybe he was irritable, maybe he was angry, who knows? But he made a very snarky comment. He goes, I'm going to meet the families. He's like, but no, I'm not going to go to the crash site. He goes, what do you want? It's water. He's like, you want me to jump in, go swimming? Now, I've waken up in the morning and not had coffee, and I made some snarky remarks before. Maybe it was cranky, but that's a pretty cranky one, you know? What do you want me to go swimming? Should be a little more sympathetic of the people that lost their lives, but he's getting a lot of flack for that. But my whole thing is like, yeah, not good. Is it the worst thing the guy ever said? No. Is it the last bad taste comment he's going to make? No, it's not the first. It's not the last. You know who this guy is. That's his whole thing. So people are like shocked. I'm like, what? Did you not know who this guy is? What'd you expect him to say? You know? So I get it's bad, but let's not pretend it's shocking. That's not a shocking comment by him. He did make some even more shocking comments. Like he came out and did a press conference, which I do like the transparency with these press conferences. And it started off so good, talking about like, this is terrible. We got to figure out what caused this. I'm so sorry to the families. And then he switched it right to DEI, which I thought was really bad taste. Now, I'm not going to, this is not a political analyst show. I'm not going to get into everything he said. But you know, the one thing I heard as he was listing off the DEI qualifications, he was trying to make an argument. He's like, I don't think there's qualified people in the ground control booth or whatever it's called. And he goes, and we're going to make sure they're qualified, not just getting jobs because of diversity and equity and inclusion. And the one thing he listed, he was like, dwarfism. He's like, we don't want to have dwarf pilots. No more. We're going to have nice, tall pilots. No more midgets. Like, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but like, what? It's a little weird, huh? Weird thing to say. Coming up with some weird stuff. Going to be honest. And if I didn't believe we were in a simulation, I might be more shocked. Yeah. Another plane crash yesterday in Philadelphia. There was an air ambulance carrying a small child and many doctors, and it exploded. It hit a mall and exploded. And no one really knows why. The videos are crazy. I saw a doorbell camera video. It was quite crazy. I don't think it's connected, and I think the conspiracy people are going to connect all these things, but I really do think they're just freak incidents that happened coincidentally. But it is quite odd. And my heart goes out to those people as well. Very, very sorry to hear that. It is heartbreaking. I don't believe these two incidents are connected. So don't let the conspiracy thinking bring you there or you will go insane. Trust me. I think these are just terrible coincidences that happen in a very close proximity of each other in time, you know. Anyways, moving on to the next story, which is also not good. The bird flu that I talked about weeks ago. Another development in that story, there was a large commercial poultry farm in Georgia that had to take out their entire flock and supply of chicken. It's going to affect prices and it's going to affect the eggs and, not good. Eventually, they're not going to catch it and it's going to get out and someone's going to eat a chicken cutlet and it's going to be animal to human spread and then human to human. And then we're back. We're back in the pandemic. So beware of the bird flu. No joke. That's going on. RFK Jr. has been having his hearings to speak of pandemic. Again, that's odd. Everything's connected somehow. He's been having his hearing, and a lot of people have different opinions on RFK Jr. I think they changed their opinion. I think a lot of people liked him, and then he joined Trump, and now they hate him. And Democrats used to call him really smart, now they call him really dumb. The term Kennedy Democrat refers to his uncle and father, and now they just like pretend he's not a Kennedy. I don't know. The guy seems smart enough. They're making fun of him because he had an addiction problem in the past. Like, how could somebody? I see all these memes and posts by these pseudo intellectual, older boomer left wing guys. This guy had a drug problem. Now he's going to run the health department. Like, these are like ignorant comments to me. I think insinuating that just because somebody had an addiction problem means they're not fit to hold a legitimate position is very unfair and rude and harmful. And we all have our own problems. If he's unqualified, come up with some other reasons why he's unqualified, not because he was an addict. This is a double-edged sword here. I see both sides. It's kind of like you get an experienced person that would be much better on paper, talks the talk better. But with that comes a lot of corruption. As you know, I don't have to get into it. Anybody that's saying science is perfect and the research is perfect and the big pharma doesn't need to be held accountable for anything. They're doing everything on the up and up, and the CDC is on the up and up, and the WHO is on the up and up, and they're a great organization, and they save lives, and they do no harm. That guy is going to be a little corrupt, whether you like it or not, but he's going to speak way better than RFK Jr. So you could get somebody who looks good, like a nice suit that has all the degrees above his desk, on the wall, got all these awards, and he's been working in DC for 30 years and he's uber qualified. Yeah, with that comes corruption and knowing how to play the game. Example, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he survived in DC for 50 years. You don't survive in DC for 10 years unless you're willing to be a little corrupt. You don't survive a year unless you're willing to be a little corrupt. If you've been there 50, you did some deals. You did some dirty. So that's the one hand. The other hand, you get the good parts about RFK is you get inquisitive thought. You get the layman's inquisitive nature of like, let's look into these things and get to the bottom of these things. Let's poke the bear. Let's see if these drugs are harmful. Let's see if the side effects are bad. Let's see what we've been doing the past 30 years and why these diseases and illnesses are arising. That's great. But then you get the unqualified part of it, where it's not really his world. It's kind of his world with environmental attorney and all that, and looking into the mercury poisoning of the certain fish and ecosystems, and then people bringing up vaccines. And I get it. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have to trade one or the other. I say maybe let's try to give him a shot instead of just saying right from the get-go, no way. I think what he wants to do is what we all want to do, which is perform the scientific method rather than believing in science as a religion. You shouldn't have to believe in science. You should be able to observe and know that that's legit. It's not faith or hope. That's not science. Trust is not science, you know? Science is facts and results, and then checking over and over again and looking at new research. The only reason that doesn't go on is there's a lot of special interest groups that have to be protected with these things. The pharmaceutical industry brings in a lot of money. You start telling the population and showing them the results that these drugs have terrible side effects that outweigh the pros, that the cons of these drugs outweigh the pros. It's going to lose a lot of money. And then they're not going to fund your campaign next year. And then you're not going to have power, and you're going to have to go back to being a custodian instead of a glorified suit that talks every once in a while and makes millions a year being corrupt. And that's a lot of Washington. So I like that they don't like him. That's why I liked the idea of Trump, because they all hated him. And I'm like, well, that tells you something. If they hate him, then they only hate him because they're afraid of what he might uncover. You know, they need a president that's going to play ball. You know, you can pretend to be a little different, but you don't go too far away from the big plan. Trump is their worst enemy. He goes way away from the big plan. Not good. Same thing's going on with Kennedy right now. And they're looking for anything they could. He's a drug addict. He has a worm in his brain. He's an anti-vaxxer, blah, blah, blah. And the big one I'm going to cover is they keep saying that he believes vaccines cause autism. And he said not 100%. Like, in other words, from what I gathered, he goes, I don't know, because I think we need to look into it, because there's a massive uptick of autism in recent years. And I think we should, if it isn't vaccines, figure out what is causing that. And I think that's fair, don't you? Don't you think we should know and maybe try to figure it out, or just pretend that nothing is different? It's the problem here. We let our political ideologies and our echo chamber get in the way of what we all stand for, which is freedom and liberty and right to know, to be informed people, to be informed citizens, to be critical thinkers. I don't want us to throw everything out the window because of our political affiliations. That's all I'm saying. Not saying he's the best guy in the world ever. No way. But maybe we should give him a shot. Let's hear what he has to say, you know? That's why the hearings are kind of nice, even though it's kind of like political pageantry and, you know, trying to one-up each other and get a soundbite for the news. But I don't know. Still think it's beneficial. Here's the thing with the vaccines. And this is what might get the show taken down, or maybe they'll come to my house or something. I don't know. Let me try to put this as easy and digestible as possible. I'm not going to say what vaccine, but let's say one of the essential ones. That vaccine, its purpose is to make you immune, an immunization, to make you immune to a disease, right? So they figure out through miracles of science how to make a person immune to a disease. That saves millions of people that would have otherwise died from that disease. Do we understand that? So vaccines do save lives, and they do make people immune to that particular disease. Very true. Here's the only tail end of that. Even though it makes you immune to that said disease, doesn't mean that there are no adverse side effects that may arise in time that may harm or kill you later. That is a fact. These vaccines do prevent you from getting the disease it was intended to prevent, but they are not to say that they don't come with side effects that affect other things. Maybe with you, or maybe your offspring, or maybe the 10 generations from now. Maybe it takes 100 years or hundreds of years to see these side effects, or maybe it takes a couple years. Who knows? That's the argument people don't really bring up. Now, we have had some of these vaccines for a very long time, decades now, and we're not really seeing any adverse effects. That's why those ones are deemed the essential ones. And there's a pro and con value scale. You know, you can say, is preventing polio better than taking a risk at getting polio? Yes. Why? Because I would rather take the chance of getting the side effects of the vaccine than getting polio. See what I'm saying? Polio guaranteed probably death. The effects of a vaccination, of an immunization, I'd rather take my chances with some adverse effects than dying of polio. Makes sense. Now, here's where it gets a little odd. COVID-19. I don't think the American people, or anyone rather, in the whole world, had the deliberation time to think, is getting COVID better than the effects that may arise from the vaccine preventing COVID? That's the problem. You know why? Because we had no idea what the effects were. And we still don't know what the adverse side effects are to any of those vaccines. And we can't compare that those are worse or better than getting COVID naturally and beating COVID. So pretty much, we don't know if we would rather have gotten COVID or gotten the side effects from the vaccine, because we don't know what the side effects from the vaccine are yet. That's the problem. And I think they clumped that COVID mRNA gene therapy into the realm and definition of vaccine, which clumped all the people that were reluctant to get that experimental gene therapy into the category of anti-vaxxers, which divided a nation. Now, was it worth getting it if you were immunocompromised and old? Yes, because you probably wouldn't have lived from COVID if you got it. Now, if you were younger, if you were not immunocompromised, I don't know, because you have a long life left of you, knock on wood, where these adverse effects may arise. And I think RFK Jr. was kind of a voice for that perspective, and a lot of people like and respect him for that. And that really pisses off Big Pharma. They want you to believe that these institutions are above all and you should trust the science and vaccines are safe and there's nothing to worry about. And then they pay an advertising company to make a commercial where there's a girl dancing around an antique shop and having a picnic and frolicking in a meadow while they list off 400 side effects for this antidepressant drug. And they even write a little jingle. They pay musicians to make a jingle for it. You want to believe that those people and the lobbyists that work for them in Washington are looking out for you? This is weird. This is what you got to decide. It's what you have to decide for yourself. I'm just saying, open your mind to different perspectives and really look at what this monster is. This is a machine. This whole economic system that keeps this country going is through ill intent. You know, if everybody got healthy and didn't need all these medicines and treatments and clinics and hospitals, a lot of money lost. They know that, and you should know that. So if someone tries to go against that system and says, we just want to make you healthy, and they're all getting mad at him, maybe a red flag should pop up in your head. What do I know? What do I know? I'm just a cowboy in the basement. Anyways, on to a lighter subject. Somebody bought a Van Gogh painting at a yard sale for $50. Can't make this up. And it ended up being worth $15 million, and it had a piece of Vincent van Gogh's hair on it. His red lock was stuck and trapped in the paint. She paid $50 for it at a yard sale. Why can't I find stuff like that when I'm picking? Why can't I find a Van Gogh? But what a score, you know? How great. Cool story on that. Look that up. But all I'm saying is you're never going to know unless you do it. You're never going to hit that jackpot if you don't play the lottery. You're never going to make the ultimate flip if you're not going to the yard sale. Imagine the people that skipped that yard sale. Like when you do a little drive-by, you go, there's nothing there, just baby strollers and shoes. But then the one guy that actually got out, started rummaging around, he goes, hey, what's this? Give me $50 for this pile of junk. And he gets the $15 million Van Gogh. What do? You go back, give them a fruit basket, give them an edible arrangement. Hey, thanks. Your yard sale changed my life. They're like, we just had to foreclose on the house. We were selling everything. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the good one. There's pineapple in it and cantaloupe. Sorry about that. Have a good day. Was the painting worth anything? No. No. It's hanging in our breakfast nook. Just some, arts and crafts project. It was nothing. Have a good day. And they get in like a Ferrari and drive off. And these people are nailing the for sale sign in their yard. Can you imagine? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are in a simulation. After going through that odd and, I don't know, all over the place news list that we just covered, it does feel like we may be in sort of like a Mandela Effect thing going on here. Things just keep getting odd. They get more and more odd. Do you feel that? Am I the only one that feels like things are just a little too weird? And we're all like desensitized and it feels normal, but I don't really think it is normal. Like, this is odd. Everything is very odd. I think it all started when Harambe was killed. I think that put us on another timeline. If you aren't familiar with the Mandela Effect, I could do a whole episode on that, but it's like they coined the term after Nelson Mandela. Some people believe he died in prison. Some people believe he didn't, and they feel like they're on another timeline now, where the space-time continuum or the multiverse or whatever split, and now we're in another timeline where we remember things from the past timeline we were in. We remember our previous timeline. And it's not like you're going to notice the placement of a tree or anything like that, but you notice things that are like, that were definitely memorable in your head. So like pop culture stuff, certain landmarks, tons of things are slightly different, but you only notice, and the mass population notices things that were like more objective. For example, like Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia on its logo. Many people had Fruit of the Loom clothing, and in passing, they looked at it and they remember that the fruit was in a cornucopia. However, in this timeline, you will not find one example of that ever existing. So go open your grandpa's drawer and find his old white shirt. You're going to say, oh, no way. I know that my grandpa, that old shirt, has the cornucopia. It doesn't, because it's not like they changed the logo. They didn't have a rebrand. It's another timeline where since the beginning, there was never a cornucopia in this timeline. You're remembering another timeline where there was. Same with Curious George's tail. He was a monkey. He had a tail. In this timeline, he doesn't. Snow White, she definitely said mirror, mirror on the wall. Not in this timeline. Go find your old VHS. Put the VCR on, fire it up. She will say magic mirror. She will not say mirror, mirror. Even though it's mirror, mirror. Darth Vader, you probably remember him saying, Luke, I am your father. He never said Luke. I know he did. I'm from the timeline where he said, Luke, I am your father. Bernstein Bears. It was always Bernstein Bears. Now it's Berenstain. Berenstain Bears. Berenstain. No way. Don't believe it. And oddly enough, back to what I told you in the beginning, top hats. Me and Mike the Barber had a debate the other night. When you think of Abraham Lincoln, don't you think of him with a top hat? Why is that? He like never really wore a top hat. And there's like one picture maybe of him with a top hat. Look at the penny, the $5 bill. Look at all the paintings. No top hat. And Mike the Barber was saying like, oh, well, back in the day, like that's the hat people would wear. And I get that, but was it really iconic enough that it's ingrained in our brains that he always had a top hat? Like, where did that come from? Why do we all know that? I think in a previous timeline, in the one we were from, he had the top hat like on the penny. He had the top hat on the $5 bill. In every picture of him, he had the top hat on, I think. And now we're in another timeline where he never had the top hat. And maybe like coincidentally, once in a while he had it in like a picture or two, but it wasn't like he was known for the top hat in this timeline. That's my spiel. I mean it. The Monopoly man had a monocle in my timeline. He doesn't in this one. We are on another timeline now, so just understand that the Mandela Effect is real and it probably is a simulation. It probably is a simulation, so enjoy it. Enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy watching the rodent come out of the hole tomorrow and tell me if we're going to have more winter or not. You should too. You should too. With that being said, this week's episode is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop, located in historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. Mike the Barber is doing these night owl sessions after hours, and they're quite fun. I attended 2 of them already, where it's like a casual get together and men discuss things like they did back in the day. It's like the Athens in Greece. It's like the town square. It's pretty nice. He does some cuts. You know, we shoot the shit, have some barbershop talk. It's pretty fun. Highly recommend if you're around to attend one of those and follow his page on the Facebook. Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I covered everything possible this news week until something else happens in 5 minutes, but that's going to be it for this week. As always, stay curious, my friends. Good night.